and welcome to this tutorial for the World Creator Bridge for Blender. In this video, we will go over the relevant steps to sync a terrain out of World Creator and take it into Blender using the bridge. We will also cover the different features the bridge provides. The terrain we are using is the Biome 01 sample that ships with World Creator 2025. It features 3 different biomes, each with multiple material layers that provide nice color details. On top of that, the forest biome includes objects like trees, grass and rocks. Whenever we want to export or sync objects from World Creator, an important decision is whether to export them as instances or details. When exporting as an instance, World Creator exports a point cloud so you can exactly replicate individual placement. This is best for large objects where placement matters, like trees. When using the detail type, World Creator generates a mask for procedural scattering. This is more efficient for large mesh numbers, so it should be used for smaller objects like grass and rocks where the exact placement isn't really relevant. For our terrain, I set the trees and bigger rocks to instances, while all other objects are set up as details. With this adjusted, the terrain is ready to be exported, so we just press the sync button in the top right. Once the export is completed, we can switch over to Blender. To quickly address the setup, the scene uses a simple HDRI background from Polyhaven for nicer lighting, and the left viewport is locked to the camera view so that we can see how the culling behaves relative to the camera. To install the bridge, simply unpack the file you downloaded from website inside, and you'll find a README and the add-on file. Then drag and drop the add-on file into the Blender viewport and enable it in the preferences. You might have to restart Blender after that to ensure everything loads up properly. To open the bridge panel, press the N key in the viewport or click the little arrow on the right. The terrain section at the top imports your terrain, while the object section imports your placed objects from World Creator. The flow is always terrain first, then object second, since the procedural scatter systems rely on the terrain for placement. So we'll start by importing the terrain. First we have the XML path parameter. This comes in handy if you're working with multiple World Creator projects in parallel. In World Creator, you can customize the sync output folder and then reference that XML in Blender. Otherwise, World Creator will by default always sync into the same folder and override previously synced data to allow an iterative workflow. The prefix parameter allows you to specify a handle that is added before every element created by the bridge. This allows you to import multiple terrains into the same Blender file without overwriting existing data. Next up, Import Layers allows you to import your material setup as individual layers to be refined in Blender. If disabled, the bridge only imports a single baked color map, which is more performant and recommended if you aren't doing close-up terrain shots. If we now press sync with that enabled, we get a pop-up regarding texture samplers. This happens because we have 3 biomes with a total of 30 materials, and Eevee is restricted in the amount of samplers a material can have. The bridge automatically drops less important maps like metallic and displacement to ensure the terrain material still loads. If you look at the material node graph, you can see all the different materials. In case you want to modify anything, simply go into the material group, for example the clover subgroup, and adjust the color or add another texture or advanced blending here. After that, make sure to disable Reset Materials. This protects your subgroup changes, allowing you to resync the terrain shape without overwriting your material adjustments. For our terrain, we won't do any close-up shots, so we will simply disable Import Layers to get better performance and resync the terrain to load the color map. Extending the parameters, you can see post-import settings. Interpolation enables smooth height map sampling, however this can cause issues on the seams of terrains larger than 4K, since those are synced in tiles. Since we have a single tile, we can safely enable it. Auto Subdivisions sets the mesh subdivision based on resolution. In our case, we want to disable it and manually increase the viewport subdivision level to 3 for a nicer result in the viewport. Last up is Vertex Reduction, which controls the decimate modifier to reduce the mesh in low detail areas for better performance. Since we are happy with the terrain now, let's move on to syncing the objects. We start in the import group. Reset Objects clears all imported object collections on sync. This is important if you change any of their contents after sync. The Frustum instance threshold is the count above which systems will have Frustum culling automatically enabled. Frustum culling means that all objects outside the camera's view of Frustum are discarded to save performance. We'll see this in action in a bit. The remaining values are the default values for Frustum and distance culling. You can change all of these values later on individually in the systems, but in case you want to set them up in the beginning so that they are pre-filled, you can adjust them here. We're going to change the base Frustum margin to 1.1 so that the Frustum is 10% larger, which reduces object pop-in at the borders of our viewport. Next, press Sync Objects. We now see some trees on the terrain. Currently almost all objects are culled because Blender spawns the default camera near 0, 0. As we move the camera towards the forest biome, trees and rocks start to pop in. Only systems with a count below our threshold are visible. Higher count systems like grass or bushes are culled because the camera is currently below the terrain. As soon as we move the camera upwards, objects in front of it appear. We can see that the objects exactly match our camera's view frustum. In the outliner, the bridge has created 3 new collections. The most important one is the underscore objects collection, which shows the individual source meshes for scattering. By default, you will see these meshes clustered together at the world origin. If these clutter your view or show up in your final render, you can simply hide the whole underscore objects collection. The collections in there can be used for adding variations. For example, you can drop a new tree model into the acacia underscore A collection, and the geometry node system will automatically include it in the random selection process when placing instances. A crucial note here, ensure this collection only contains mesh objects. Do not include empty or null objects. Since the system picks randomly from the list, if it selects an empty, it will spawn nothing, resulting in invisible gaps that don't match your world creator scene. The remaining 2 collections hold the geometry node networks and point clouds. You typically won't need to touch these as they are fully managed by the bridge UI. Back in the bridge UI, expand the systems menu to see a list of all the objects. You have toggles for visibility as well as the option to display them as a simpler proxy mesh with customizable colors. All the system scatter parameters are pre-filled by the bridge to replicate the scene you had in World Creator. While point cloud systems are rather rigid, procedural systems can be adjusted in terms of placement, density, scaling, and orientation with the same options you have in World Creator. Additionally, both point cloud and procedural systems have the different culling options for distance and frustum culling, so you can adjust them individually for each system. This allows you to cull larger, more visible objects later by disabling frustum culling or increasing their distance culling so that they are more visible in the background. Below the system menu, we have the display and export menu. In the display menu, you can apply a global density reduction to all systems or only high density frustum cull systems, as well as set a custom camera for all the culling operations. The export menu allows you to realize the different scatter systems to turn them into real geometry. To find a nice camera view, we will go now into the display menu and set the density reduction to 1 with only frustum enabled. This hides the high density grasses and bushes, allowing us to smoothly orient the camera while being shaded. Once we have a spot we're happy with, set the reduction back to 0 and go into render mode to see the final sync terrain. Thanks a lot for watching. We hope this has given you an idea of how to work with the World Creator Bridge for Blender, a separate tutorial for the modding tools that is already in the works. If you have feedback or questions, let us know in the comments or join us on our Discord server.